Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about an amazing trip I did with my friend in about 2014. We went to China and we climbed Huashan Mountain, which is considered to be one of the most dangerous hiking trails in the world. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video. I'm going to be talking about another really amazing book about exploration, but actually more about survival that I read, which you may not have heard of, and it's an absolutely extraordinary situation, so I'm going to be talking about that at the end. So when me and my friend decided to go and visit this mountain, it was actually because we'd seen one of these clips on Facebook that said something like, clickbait style, "You won't believe how dangerous this is, would you brave this, etc, etc," and of course we, being us, we had to go and see whether it was the case or whether it was more of just a tourist thing. But in any case, we thought it would be really exciting and interesting to go to China. We saw a lot of other cities, but we were definitely set and focused on going to explore this mountain. So even though we left the hotel at about 10 AM, we spent the whole day actually travelling to the mountain. It was a combination of not being able to speak any Chinese language, or nothing that was able to evolve to a conversation anyway, and train times, not being aware of the push and shove of the commuter train stations in China, and you have to be a little bit ruthless to get your way to the front of the queue. And we finally managed to get onto a train, get tickets there, get to the bottom of the mountain. There's a little kind of village and shops area at the bottom of the mountain, and there are lots of taxi drivers lined up there. So we thought we'll just get a taxi to the very bottom of the mountain, the bit where you kind of go through the barriers. They do put like little barriers and gates at the bottom of the mountain, and we thought we'll get up to that point. So we did go into a taxi. We did spend about 10 minutes waiting for the taxi driver to move, until we eventually realised that he wasn't going to until he had a second passenger. So we decided to take the shuttle bus up, which we thought would be slower, but in the end we took it up because it ended up probably would have been quicker to take it in the first place. So by the time we actually started our climb, it was pretty much sunset, and then obviously going off into darkness and night. The actual terrain of the mountain itself, it's all been cut into steps, almost completely all the way up steps, and it's quite astounding to think that you're going all, that high. It's above 2,000 meters high, and you just walk up steps. Well, you think it sounds easy, but 2,000 meters worth of steps is not as easy as you might think it is when you initially think, okay, it's just steps. But we really enjoyed it because all the way up this mountain there are little shops on the side, with shopkeepers that stay there and sleep there. Obviously we were climbing through the night, and we stopped regularly at these little shops, and they were always there, always open, always willing to kind of help us and obviously sell what we wanted to buy. There were some areas where, a lot of areas actually, especially near the start of the walk, where there were padlocks and red ribbons tied onto the side of the walk, or onto the trees lining the walk, which people have basically put there for good luck when they were climbing the mountain. So I think possibly my friend did buy something and tie it on, but I don't remember doing that myself. It did take us, we started about 5 PM I'd say, and we actually got to the top about 1 AM, and there are some really gorgeous sections. There were sections where they'd strung up essentially what looked like massive fairy lights like along the stairs to help you find the way, and there were little rivers kind of winding down it, obviously just where the water was draining. There were hostels and hotels actually on the mountain. I've never seen anything like it. I don't think that would happen in the UK, in mountains in the UK, for sure. But the fact that I've never experienced anything like that was what made it so unique and amazing. We eventually got to the top, like I say, about 1 AM, and they had a fully fledged hostel house, like at the top, places where people were camping, and then places where you know, you had rooms that you could rent the night in, which is what we did because we were massive wimps, and we thought that it would be kind of like we could dry out all our stuff and we could kind of relax and chill for the night. So we locked the door with a twig of wood across the front of the door, so I'm not sure how secure that is, but I'm imagining not very. Luckily no one entered. And we hung all our stuff out on the sides and on the edges of the beds and on the other unoccupied beds, thinking that, okay, brilliant, they're going to like dry out throughout the night. And they did not dry out. They got wetter, would you believe it, through the night. The mist of the mountain, especially coming up in the morning, made everything absolutely soaked. Now there's a little side story to this. I was quite amused by this. So basically, when you're in China, there's normally places where you can get kind of boiling water. So if you buy any noodles or something anywhere, then you know you've got this boiling water which has been boiled, so it's relatively safe, and you can use that for your noodles. And I'd eaten some of that, had the gravy from the thing, and I had put it back in my flask. I thought, like, why waste it? It's like, you know, nutrients that we could need. So we'd actually been alternately sipping from this glass of flask of gravy throughout the climb, and eventually got to the top, and there was, I don't know, like a tiny bit left. And I don't know what she was, I think obviously she thought it was water, so my friend wanted to clean herself up a little bit after the climb. She said, oh Jenny, you don't mind if I just, you know, grab some of your water, and just, she literally had the top of the flask open and was ready to pour gravy over herself, until I was like, gravy, so I wouldn't do that if I were you. And we woke up, I would say about 5:45, really early, because one of the big things that we wanted to do was see the sunrise on the East Peak, which is where we had climbed to. There are like 5 other peaks, obviously 5 peaks in total, the other directions, and then there's like a central peak as well. But we climbed to the east one, we stayed there because we wanted to see the sunrise, and it was absolutely beautiful. And if I can work out how to do it, it will be there. So, you might be thinking, what's so dangerous about this hike? You have a 2,000 metre mountain, stairs all the way up. Not a lot of handrails, but honestly they're stairs, so you can't go far wrong with that. So it's a bit tiring, but why would I say it was dangerous? Well, there's an attraction at the top, which is, I'm going to say, a little bit sketchy. It's called the plank walk. You may have heard of it. Essentially, you use a similar way to when you do a via ferrata, or when you're in caving and somebody's already put some lines up. You get harness, and you have a cow's tails on your harness. So there's one line which is a bit longer and has a carabiner tied to the end of it, and then there's one line which is a little bit shorter and has a carabiner on the end of it. And you basically use them to alternately clip along the route. And you never ever unclip both at once, because you don't want to plummet to your doom. And obviously you need to unclip one at a time because you're moving across, and sometimes it's not, you know, there are bolts holding it in, so you need to clip for either side of those bolts. The essentially via ferrata on Huashan, which they called the plank walk, the planks were the nicest bit of it. The planks made me feel really safe. They had a bit which was like little strips of wire weaving in and out the cliff, which you had to go straight down, and then tiny shallow depressions for your foot, and nothing else but the via ferrata wire to hold on to, so you're like this, desperately trying not to fall backwards. I will try and put some pictures. I absolutely loved it. I love that kind of thing, because there is that element of safety there. You know, it might go wrong, it might not be foolproof, but you think there is an element of danger as well, which is what makes it exciting. I have to say, there was one guy who was fed up of kind of a slow shuffling line of people, probably about 8 people, kind of got into a pipe together and got stuck. Not an actual pipe, I mean they kind of got stuck on one section of it where you had to move quite slowly to be safe. So he decided he didn't like that and he was going to bypass it, took both of his carabiners off and just was like gonna walk. There's like the mountain down there, a big drop off of the mountain. So I've never seen my friend so furious, and she said, "If you don't put both of your carabiners back on," she's like, "you might want to drop today, but I don't want to see you die," which I thought was very funny. And then he kind of looked very sheepish and put them both back on. I was like, "What are you doing? Like, why don't you just like hold on for a second and not like die?" That's a good plan, I think. So that's why they call it one of the most dangerous trails, but it's actually a very small part of it, and it's a part that you go into, you can choose to go into. You don't need to go into it to get up to any of the main peaks. You can go to them all, which we did do after we did that, and visit them all, and you can go up steps and you're relatively safe. But if you want that extra spike of adrenaline, extra spike of fun, then the plank walk is amazing and very cool. And I have to say that I was a little bit of a tourist, and I found someone that was engraving your name on an I Climbed Huashan medal, and I bought it because I've still got it somewhere, because I had such a good time doing it that I just wanted that little souvenir for a memory. So as promised, I'm just going to talk about an unbelievable story that happened to someone called Julian Kopek, called When I Fell from the Sky. She was involved in a plane crash and she literally fell 2 miles from the sky. Landed in the jungle, and it was about how she survived and how she managed to get out, which isn't a spoiler because she read the book, but it's just, you won't believe the amount of ingenuity and the amount of strength that she had, which is definitely something that I aspire to. So yep, go and check this book out. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, please tell me anywhere that you want to hear about. I might have been there, and any suggestions for improvement. And I hope to see you next video.